got a few more chairs to shuffle around, but we're after 2 o'clock, so we're going to try to get rolling. Thanks for coming, everybody. We have a crowded, full house. My name is Jake, and I work here at the Library and Information Services. And before we get into the real program, I just wanted to tell you about a couple of things. Back on the table, we have these little red and black squares. This is a community-wide survey, and on the back is a QR code you can scan. The library is doing its first sort of master plan in the last 20 years, and we would really appreciate your feedback and suggestions. And so if you would all complete the survey and contribute your ideas, it would be best for the library, best for the community, and we hope you'll do that. You can grab some on your way out. You can also scan it on the website. I want to let you know that we're going to be recording this at the request of several people, and we'll share the link with the Grassland Heritage Foundation, and we'll also put it up on the library's YouTube channel. Both of those will take a few days, but you can look for it in both of those places. If you don't want to be on film, especially folks in the front row, you might want to sort of head for the back before the Q&A sessions. We laugh, but there are people who would rather not. So just wanted to let you know that that's going to be happening, and it's actually something that I think most people maybe aren't aware that the library has a YouTube station or channel. But we post a lot of things up there, not all of our public programs by any means, but take a look at it sometime. Getting back to the survey, I forgot to tell you that you have a chance for a $50 downtown Lawrence gift certificate if you win the drawing, so take the survey. I'm going to read from text here, so you have to excuse me. If you read the blog that I posted in the website last week, you know that Stan and I both have close connections to the Land Institute in Salina. I want you to know that the library will be hosting a book launch and community table for Living Roots, The Promise of Perennial Foods, a new book by Liz Carlisle, Aubrey Street, Krug, and others. That will be on Tuesday, March 31st at 5:30 here in the auditorium. In addition to talks and book sales, local groups will talk about the work they do related to perennial stewardship of this place. Rumor has it there may also be bread and beer made with Kernza, the local Land Institute's perennial wheat. Okay, so onward and upward. I'm going to pass the reins to Brent Mortensen of the Grassland Heritage Foundation. He's going to take it from here.
Thank you all for coming out on your Saturday afternoon. We're so grateful you're here joining with us. My name is Brent Mortensen. I'm on the Grassland Heritage Foundation board. If you're not familiar with the Grassland Heritage Foundation, we are an organization that promotes conservation, stewardship, and education about our native grasslands. There are many opportunities to get involved. We put on talks like the one you're at right now. But if you want to do more than that, there's opportunities to go out and participate at our prairies. We do burns. If right now you're thinking, I don't know if I would like to set a field on fire, you're probably not being honest with yourself. But if that's not quite your speed, there's opportunities to do other things out there as well. Invasive removal, collecting seeds that we then use not only at our properties but others as well. And if you want to even scale back from that a little bit more, we have outreach events, education days, and every year we also have a prairie plant sale where we try to help people get their own little piece of the prairie in their front yard. So if you'd like to learn more about this, we have information in the back where you're coming in. Also, if you look in the very back right there, we have Kathy Denning. She's holding up a sign-up sheet. We can get you on the email list. We can send you more information. Or also up here at the front, Steve Case, if you want to raise your hand. He can also help you out, or myself. Come talk to us, and we can get you pointed in the right direction.
I'm the treasurer, so I'll take your checks.
So again, thank you so much for coming out. I'm actually going to turn the time over to Sandy Sanders, who is a friend of Stan Hurd. She can introduce you.
Welcome, everyone. It's delightful to see so many of you and dear friends. And I'm on the Grassland Heritage Board of Governors, thanks to Helen Alexander, who I'm delighted to see out there, and many other people very active in environmental activities. I've had the pleasure of knowing Stan most of my life because both of our families have roots in Protection, Kansas. How many of you have ever heard of it? It's the only one in America that's named Protection. So I've watched his renowned career as an earthworks artist and painter grow from Western Kansas to the world. He's pioneered a form of living sculpture, creating massive aerial view murals by plowing, planting, mowing, and/or burning on pieces of land that eventually return to their natural state. He's become the preeminent representational earthworks artist in the world, often known as a father of crop art. As one of the founders of the Prairie Renaissance, Stan's been active in a group promoting film, music, and the arts in America's heartland. Stan's artworks encompass social, environmental, political, and other themes, and use an unusually wide range of artistic mediums. Inspired by Impressionist and Modernist painters and the Kansas landscape, his 40-plus year career has began with his first mural in Protection, Kansas, which I saw years ago. And his first major public mural was in Dodge City, a 4-story mural of a stagecoach, which is beautiful. That was in July 1979. Locally, you may have seen his 2003 flower bouquet on the Kansas River levee, or his 2024 portraits of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz near Lawrence in North Lawrence, and Bob Dole at the Dole Center. He recently did a portrait called Young Woman of Mexico, honoring Mexico's Independence Day, and that's in northeast of Lawrence. He's done an installation called Young Woman of China in Yunnan Province, China. Other works feature portraits of iconic figures including Kiowa Chief Santanta, Will Rogers, Amelia Earhart, Joe Biden, John Lewis, and Maya Angelou. Other nature-themed works include a Van Gogh-inspired sunflowers in a vase near Eudora. And his earthworks countryside was located in a New York City vacant, trash-strewn lot along the Hudson River. For that one, he engaged homeless people living in a nearby tunnel to help create what was a transformative project on many levels. He's a big heart, by the way, there is a film on that called Earthwork, I believe. He's a big-hearted visionary as well as a uniquely talented artist. In addition to the US and China, he has earthworks located in Australia, Brazil, and Cuba. Articles in National Geographic and Smithsonian have showcased his work, and one current project is a large mural inside the newly renovated Kansas Historical Society in Topeka. Stan connects his wide-ranging earthworks to environmental awareness and a love for the land. He's passionate about many aspects of life, including prairies. Grassland Heritage Foundation is very fortunate to have him as our speaker today. So I will turn it over to Stan.
See if we can get this technology working. How are you guys? Look at this, an attentive audience. You're all staring right at me. I talked to Andrew when I first came, and I said, is there a way we could set the chairs kind of scattered a little bit? Just the rows, that configuration makes me nervous. But it's fine, you guys will do good. So anybody wants to move their chair around, feel free. We're going to start off with put your left foot in, put your left foot out, put your left foot in, and shake it all about. Do the hokey pokey. Very interesting for me at this stage in my life to be back in Lawrence, Kansas. By the way, somebody give us a quick report on the basketball game. I know somebody's listening to it.
Lost by 17.
What?
Got blown out at the end.
Are you kidding? This was Cincinnati? I mean, were they good? I mean, I guess they were good. 17 at home. Okay, I'm going home. Well, the Jayhawks always come back. So.
That's what all the netizens wanted him to say. They wanted him to turn around and go, sorry. But it's,
Let's get on your computer real quick.
Wow, Philip, was that you? Anyway, what I'd like to do is yeah, go ahead, let me do that. Is log into my computer. I always like to have about 7 good tech people around so that they can tell me what's going on. So in a moment, we'll turn the lights down a little bit so you can see the picture. So I'd like to do about 30 minutes of yammering and then open it up to questions, because it always gets more interesting when people get to engage a little bit and ask me all the heavy stuff. So feel free to do that. Okay, I'm going to start off. Thank you all for coming. Did anybody see any
you
ice
don't want
this morning?
inside your body. So like theoretically, it sounds like something that you would listen to in a self-help podcast. But instead, she goes, there are some things that
That's
other
not my
people
computer,
can
is
say,
it?
but you cannot say.
That's strange.
Like you can't make fun
So
of her.
apparently
I
there's,
guess she thought he
there's
was
a-
making fun of her for her previous events of.
There's a ghost
But he
audience
wasn't.
here. Got it? Let's see. Oh, testing, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you got it. And this room's small enough. I can probably talk without the mic. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, let's just jump in. And I've lived in Lawrence, moved here in, I can't remember now, 78, something like that. My son, Evan's 35. We'll get to that in a bit, and you can see him. Let's see if this works. So, lights, please. Do you think we ought to turn it down a little bit, Jake? And first, I should say thank you to the Grassland folks. I don't know, do you want it that dark? That's good. You guys okay with that? I mean, I put on a clean shirt. And I was telling somebody I ran to get my clothes out of the laundromat, and they were still wet, so I rushed back to my studio and put a fan on to dry them. My pants are wet. But I'm very, very clean. I'll start this off by this. I always like to start from the beginning, and no, I won't be here for 4 hours. But I'm the second from the left. My brother Stuart looking up at me, and my brother Steve and my sister Cheryl. 2 more siblings would come along soon after. This is Southwest Kansas, Comanche County. My grandparents came to Comanche County on the Oklahoma border in a covered wagon in 1915 or 16. So I have very, very, very deep roots in Kansas, and my family goes back generations. My brother Steve still works on that farm down there. We have, I think, 60 acres left of the original 600 acres that we started with. My mother, on Easter Sunday, would dress us up in these cute little outfits and send us off to the big city of Protection, a town of 600 or 700 on the windswept plains of southwest Kansas. And I know she was hoping that we would grow up to be doctors and lawyers and important folks. And I came back from college looking like this. And yes, I could play that guitar, not very well, but I played it. And my painting. So after a couple of years at WSU, Wichita State University, I had a kind of a rough time, a rough patch in my life, and moved back home and kind of met my parents as an adult at 19, 20, maybe 21. And really have changed my view of rural America quite a bit. My father was a World War II vet, a hardworking man of the land. My mother, an incredible homemaker, and 5 brothers and sisters, 5 brothers and a sister. And so I ended up helping my dad feed cattle one fall, and then worked in heavy equipment. And that was after Wichita State, and after discovering that I was the artist in the family, I decided it was time to take more seriously my art. So I began to paint murals. And boy, I had hair back then, didn't I? Murals, and kind of started to do big sign work just to make a dollar. And ended up, this is years later, but ended up painting murals all over the country, really. Mainly the Midwest, mainly Kansas. This was in Missouri, Scott Joplin's mural. I thought that was kind of fun. So I also did canvas paintings. I never measured up to my buddy Louis Kopp's burn paintings, but Louis taught us all. He passed just a few months ago, and we were all pretty shocked to see Louis on his way. And so paintings, that was actually on the Red Buffalo Ranch. Every artist and every musician and every poet and every writer hopes to come up with the new thing, the next thing. You have to innovate. You can't just copy others, but you steal from others, and you listen to others, and you watch others paint, and you watch others sculpt, and then you try to morph that into your own gift. And Smithson was, I was somewhat aware after going to Wichita State University about the artists that were taking the art out of the museum system, and really they were kind of doing it as, this art's not just a commodity. It's not just a coin in moving money around the world, but it has greater impact. I was taken by that. Smithson, Heiser, Walter de Maria, I was somewhat aware of those folks. Also began to become aware of the indigenous populations around the world that have been creating incredible artworks. The White Horse of Uffington. This piece was in, I think, Chile. And the Chilean Air Force used it for target practice up until the 60s. That's why you can see the pock marks. So they were, hey, go out and shoot at that thing, see if you can hit it. So, and now globally, these types of discoveries are much more heavily embraced in most of the world. We have some of this even in Kansas, out in the Midwest. One of the artists that really set me on fire, I think, was Cristo. And, I thought, what is this guy doing? He's building a fence out of canvas and running it for 22 miles across the terrain. I mean, it was so abstract in thought and theory and reasoning. And, but what I realized was that he was insinuating his art into the fabric of society. He was engaging multiplicity of people and community. He was engaging young artists to help him. He was engaging farmers and landowners. And the dialogue that developed and the friendships and the people that got involved in his work were the work. The actual manifestation of it at the end, the photograph of it, the film of it, was almost secondary to the 2.5 years it took him to make this happen. Well, at that point, I'd been working for almost 2 years to try to get my first earthwork in the ground, unsuccessfully, out in Dodge City. I'd gone to Wichita State, went back to Dodge City, and came up with the idea finally one day. I flew over a mural that I'd created on a building downtown Dodge City, the one that Sandy referenced. And on the way back to the airport, I saw this tractor plowing a diagonal line across 160 acres. And I thought, well, I'm an old farm boy. Nobody does that. Why are you plowing a line from corner to corner? I had a one-way. I grew up at 11. All of the boys in the family would get on Dad's tractor. I started with an old case. And you would plow around the quarter. And it would take you a day, maybe with an 8 to 10 inch or 10-foot one-way to plow that out. And it was a really amazing experience, quite frankly, to sit out there on that tractor and smell the dirt and watch the coyotes and the hawks fly in and the mice run. And flying back to the airport, I flew over that tractor, and immediately it came to me, oh my God, I'm an artist. I could go out and use that tractor, that one-bottom plow as a pen or a Crayola. And so about a year later, I ended up with a 160-acre portrait of Kiowa Chief Satanta. Satanta was pretty famous. I was also really beginning to study the native people whose property my father's farm was on, and my grandfather. Bluff Creek ran south out into Comanche County, right on the northern edge of Oklahoma, and Satanta was famously noted for being the great orator of the plains. And so I began to, I was just of the age that I was starting to pay attention to what the young American Indian movement was about. I was a long-haired, hippie guy, as you saw, with my puka shell necklace and my embrace of everything. Oops, what happened? I talked too long? That's what my ex-wife said. By the way, is Janice here? Jan, are you here? No, she didn't come.
Go ahead, put the password in, then we'll.
Oh, I got to do that again? Got it. So remind me to quit talking so much. I don't know if I can see. Sorry, folks. Okay, I can't see.
Yeah, I got it.
Damn it. Where's the music when we need it? Okay, Stan, quit dawdling. Let's get on with this. So anyway, Satanta. Anyway, that began kind of a conversation and a history of getting to know the first people as well as I could, including Bob Martin at Haskell Indian Nations University. Dan Wildcat invited me out. Les Evans and I began to create a work together with the Haskell students. We met with the elders, and I was incredibly honored as a non-Indian. My father always said that we had Indian blood. He was very proud of that. I never have been able to really trace it. I mean, I think a lot of us go way, way back. But we created that piece, and then I met Saginaw Grant, Sac and Fox Indian man, and asked his permission to create his portrait on the ground. That's a tractor sitting on the headband, so it shows you the size of the thing. That's 27 acres. So I really, jumped into this, and I was kind of the first guy to do it, so, I thought that was pretty cool. Speaking of grasslands, I love the old saying, I don't know who discovered water, but it certainly wasn't a fish. And I think that's kind of how I discovered the grasslands that I grew up in. I was born on the Western Plains, Llano Estacado, No Man's Land, Cherokee Strip, the Oklahoma Panhandle. All of those are the same place. I was 20 miles away in a little farmhouse, and so you don't really, when you grow out of the ground, you don't really notice much until you get out of the world and return. So Eugene Friesen playing a cello with Aldo Leopold's family, reading poetry with Aldo Leopold's portrait carved out of the ground at West Jackson's Land Institute. I mean, that's probably like the coolest place. If I went back and had to pick 7 really amazing places that I showed up at, it was on that property. This is the first time that I got my buddy and I said, can you elongate an image so that the foreshortening will work from the ground? So you can kind of, see that. If I can see here. You can see it back there. But Eugene Friesen, amazing Kansas guy. You should have him come back and do a piece. Eugene plays with the Paul Winter Consort, travels the world, utilizes his music like Kevin Wilmot utilizes his film, and Stanley Sheldon utilizes his bass. All we arty farties are out there trying to change the world with our art, and quite frankly, we don't know what else to do. This image, maybe beyond anything else, set my path in life 40 years ago. This is a woodblock print of Francisco Amaghetti. Francisco Amaghetti was a Costa Rican artist. I had been contacted out in central Kansas by the Land Institute, by the Salina Arts and Humanities to create an image out there. And they said, do what you want. So I was home watching this piece. That's La Niña y el Viento, the little girl in the wind, which recognizes that young women of childbearing age, and isn't it relevant today, are taken by the male population historically. And it was such a powerful print that I came back and I approached Steve Cadu and his wife Karen and said, could I approach your daughter about doing a portrait of her in my hopefully first of a series of portraits of young indigenous women in their ancestral homeland. So I meet with Carol Cadu, and it's Carol. Carol's in town here now. Carol, are you here? God, I paid these folks and they still didn't show up. Anyway, Carol's portrait was pretty amazing in that I had been plowing up ground and creating art and some commercial works to make a living. But I decided in response to and in parallel with the theories of Wes Jackson and the Land Institute that I would try to create a piece that would mirror his sustainable agriculture approach to the natural prairie. The natural prairie is an incredibly diverse ecosystem that's evolved over millennia, and Wes's challenge was that modern agriculture needed to mirror that. And that set me off on a path to try to go to Brazil, and through this slideshow, I'll probably go back and forth to the women's series that's guiding me to this day. This was a piece in Manguinhos favela in Rio de Janeiro, and I spent 6 trips down there in 5 or 6 years trying to create a portrait of the young woman of Brazil as my second piece. They were just starting to recover areas in blighted areas, the favelas or slums, and the government came in and took everybody out, all of the drugs and all of the people that were, who knows where they took them, by the way. But anyway, they started building these planters, and you get why I don't like everything in a box. I just said, man, if I had been here 6 months ago, we could have made this as a great portrait. And so that's what I came up with. And I created this piece in downtown Kansas City as a proof of concept, hoping that I would find the money. And I finally got all kinds of attention in Brazil. And I'm going to jump ahead to that in a minute. But I never could raise money. I've kind of had a problem with that most of my life. Although it's looking better. Philip and I are looking at going back to China, and I'll get to that China piece in a bit. Anyway, jump forward to, I don't know, 1980 maybe. And I had decided that I was going to get the hell out of Kansas and take my art to the big city. So I approached Trump's vice presidents, Andy Weiss, Charlie Reese. I still stay in touch with Andy. He is not involved with our president in this day. But I approached the Trump organization about creating an image on the ground. They allowed that. I didn't pay them. They didn't pay me. I simply took the ground for a year and created my road from the rural parts of the nation to the big city. And this is just a theme that I've drawn hundreds of times in my sketchbooks. I don't even really know exactly why, but the cottonwood tree standing over the road leading out of nature, maybe. And so that piece, I was there 9 months. That's Hudson River, the bridge that's on the west side. Trump would later build 7 buildings on top of this site. These guys were my buddies up there, and Chris Ordahl made a really nice movie. It's not 100% accurate, but it's 72.7% accurate. But Michael was a college student, lone wolf, claimed he knew Pierre Trudeau, but he lived in a cave. Ryan was fresh from California, had left his family because of a big fight with his father. And they all, I was getting a little bald then, wasn't I? They all became my buddies. So on occasional mornings, I would get in, I'd clean up and in my little hovel that I rented and go to Trump headquarters and meet with Andy Weiss and tell him what's going on and order some topsoil or whatever. And then I would come back and bring coffee and donuts to my buddies who were living in the caves there. So it was just really an amazing opportunity to see the very top of New York and the bottom of the bottom. And I like these guys well, Andy Weiss was really great, but I didn't meet Trump till the last day. Anyway, Ordahl decides he's going to make a movie about this because Ryan, the one next to me, when he realized that what happened to him when he was involved in this, Chris started to create the film. That's John Hawkes. No, I am not built like that. But John and all of those folks, Laura Kirk here in Lawrence, played in the movie. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty good. Earthwork did well in smaller film places. You know, we didn't make Sundance. We didn't get the big time. I don't think he ever made any money at it, but it was fun to meet John Hawkes. John Hawkes would go on to Winter's Bone fame, and we couldn't have afforded him after he got so popular. There's the image on Manhattan Island. That was when the World Trade, or the towers were still up. Jumping back to Prairie, and I've created images around the state. When Heritage got hold of me to do this, I started rethinking all of these prairies that I'd been on doing things. This was after the Land Institute, or after the Land Institute and the piece with the Salina Arts and Humanities. I was approached by Connie Bonfi in Arc City to create an image with Eugene Friesen, the cellist, and he wrote a beautiful. What do you call it? A symphony, and we played it for 5 or 6 years in a row, which predated the big symphony out in the Flint Hills here. So Connie was the genius visionary there. We did this in front of 500 people maybe, and of course they get 5,000 out there. But it was kind of an amazing 5 years to spend creating this piece out of just stone. So what we did, the whole landscape was replete with all of this ancient stone, and we simply pulled it around and laid it out, and it's still there. The cattle come in and kick it around a little bit, but I haven't seen it for a few years. I need to go back. White Rose, I'm going to jump into that. So Bob Algelli, are you here? Damn it. Dr. Bob Algelli, whose father was head of Latin American Studies. I mean, my art has always just been an opportunity to go out into the world and meet the world and get involved in the world. And that's still happening right now, and I love that aspect of it. I've literally worked with and around 1,000 people, including 200 or 300 in China. But this was a very mediocre image. I never thought much of it, but it reflected Jose Marti's White Rose, a poem, and we ended up creating that with Cuban school children in Havana at the time that George Bush had identified Cuba as one of the axis of evil. So Pat Roberts, Senator Pat Roberts, a good buddy of mine, Republican guy out of Dodge City, he helped us get into Cuba the second trip. We went down kind of illegally the first time. I mean, my guy Bob really knew his way around and spoke Cubano Spanish, and I was just along for the ride. But what an amazing experience to spend time in Havana, Cuba, and work with the Cuban folks to create the White Rose. It's still there. It's been hit by 2 or 3 hurricanes, but it still stands. And I really, really hope to go back Nobody knows what's going on in any part of the continent or the world right now because of all of these crazy leaders that are forcing odd stuff on the world, in my opinion. But I think I will get back. That's Bob Algelli in the blue shirt. There I am, sans mustache, with the Cespedes family, who are the first people. Their family fought for Cuban independence against Spanish rule, and they were at my piece. Everybody came to the dedication except for Fidel. And it was rumored that he was going to, but where is this thing? Bill Curtis, I'm going to jump to this real quick. Bill invited me to be the artist in residence on his 10,000-acre Prairie ranch down in Sedan, Kansas. Incredible year of my life spent with Bill. What an amazing guy. I missed his speech here recently. But we just hung out for a year down there and ate banana milkshakes at Cheney. One of the many things that I did with him was to create Prairie Hinge, which was a nice place for the buffalo. I was working out there one day completely by myself, listening to the birds and watching for rattlesnakes, and all of a sudden I just heard this snort. And I turned around and all of these buffalo had come up within, and they're kind of dangerous if they don't like you. But I had big stones to hide behind. I think I'm trying to get away from just creating artworks on the ground and to get into more sculptural things like this. There it is from the sky. So it's the two concentric circles. The larger circle represented the history of the prairie, of the evolution from the ancient seabed to what we have now, the forests and blackjack oak down there. And then the smaller circle are everything since the first people that came, then the settlers, and certainly the Osage first, of course. So we had Osage elders and other Native Americans, and we had governors of both Kansas and Oklahoma came out. Bill Curtis, we had big ideas about an art gallery down there, and he was going to build a hotel. And I think Donna, his wife, was not as excited as he was about spending all of his money in southeast Kansas. But it's still down there, and a beautiful place. Here I am. This is where I got the inspiration to grow a big belly. That's Milo, or Philip, how do you say it? Milo? Yeah, Milo. Philip walked out of Mongolia when he was 17 and ended up at the University of Kansas here, and I'm learning a lot from him these days. Anyway, I was asked to go to China. When I got the email, I was like, yeah, come on, this is not going to happen. So I said, well, I'll go over there, I'll come, but I've got to do what I want to do. I was making a stand, I'm going to quit doing commercial things, and I'm going to do art, or I'm not going to do anything. And amazingly, they said, okay. So I told them I want to do a portrait of a young woman. I want to talk about women's rights, and I want to talk about indigenous people on their lands. So I ended up talking with somebody who was right square in the middle of the Yunnan province, which is where 50 of the 60 indigenous populations live because of the climate. I had no idea. They thought I was smart. I was just completely lucky. And but I got to go out there. It's 199 steps up to the Buddha. It's the Happy Buddha. Buddhism moved to southeast China. Is the first place that Buddhism shows up is in Milo. Is that right, Philip? I hate to make up stuff. So I met some amazing people. I was tall in China, which made me quite happy. So the Yi group people was the portrait that I ended up depicting, and I met with so many different people over there. It was such an amazing place, completely beyond anything I imagined. My son Evan went 5 times. My brother Stuart twice. Friends went. Stanley Sheldon went with me once. I would go back in a heartbeat, and we hope to go back and do some more there. The image, this is like almost finished. It's funny, when I got to this point, those crews were laying this beautiful marble on the face of the piece. And then the shadow part was granite. And then all of the flowers were actually on an 11-degree slope, were actually irrigated flower gardens. And they ran water from the collecting ponds down there up to the top, and then it filtered down through all of that art and water everything. It was just, kind of blew me away. I just thought I would just do an image, laid out on the ground, and it became way more involved in that. They buried everything 3 feet in the ground. Every line of that, the main line of the portrait was buried in the ground with hundreds of workers and picks and busting stone to lay it out. It just still blows me away. Sometimes I think my life's just a crazy movie. So this is not a great photograph, but that was it at its peak. They planted every one of those trees. I mean, of course, and it still sits there. And people say, well, how long will it last? And I said, well, the Great Wall of China, if they have a really, really big earthquake, maybe it's going to make it. This image will be there for eternity because it's buried in the ground. It may crack or something, I don't know. But the Chinese taught me a lot, and I hope maybe I imparted something to them, but I learned so much. And my son, Evan, I think it changed his life. Ended up on the front cover of the Shanghai Daily, and I thought, I have arrived. Now, millionaires are going to discover me, and I'll be flying my own jet over here. Oh, that didn't quite happen. But I did meet a lot of amazing people, and I'm still in conversations with them. Just a portrait, one of my best. Kyra Rosalie, my art director, helped a lot on this piece, and she's been involved. Kyra, are you here? Nope. Guys, I actually have friends. This piece just kind of grew out of the ground. We had a 5-year, 6-year running relationship with the city of Atlanta. And it's funny how quick they embrace your art if you come down and tell them, you don't have to pay for it. We're just going to pay for it ourselves. Everybody loves you for some reason. I don't know. But they did embrace. We did John Lewis the first year. We did Maya Angelou and the Carter family. I won't go into it now because we don't have time, but if you ever want to hear the Carter story, it was amazing. Come on, move. So I'm getting down to it, guys. This is what I'm working on right now. I think my most important work that says to our neighbors, our friends, our allies, Viva Mexico. Right now we're in a our neighbors are not feeling like the United States is very neighborly. And I created this image in great part to show an appreciation. I think I have Spanish, I have Latino blood. My grandparents, I know my grandmother had some Spanish blood. I'm not sure exactly, haven't looked it up. But I just have a real love for Spanish culture, Latin music, all of that. My friend Stan Sheldon's playing with a band called Stan Sheldon's Rhythm Republic, which is an Afro-Cuban jazz band that will be here every month on a Wednesday night. It was 2 nights ago. Also wanting to go into Kansas City, and that's why I brought my bull. Anyway, this image is the image that I discovered on the banner of Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, a Jewish woman with no Latin blood, president of Mexico. I mean, that just blows me away, and I love it. I very much hope to meet her. I hope to support, I work with Brent Metz here with the head of Latin American Studies. I'm with Kansas University, and Tamara Falikoff, who's the humanities with UMKC. I'm working with Soye Padilla-Meyer. That's Soye in the middle. She's the Consulate General for Mexico. I've also worked with Judith Arrieta Munguia. I just like to say that. Judith Arrieta Munguia. She's in Brownsville, Texas, and if things work out, Philip and I and Stan as our interpreter, Stan Sheldon, will be, Stan, did you make it? Damn it. Anyway, there's Philip with his hat on, and Stan, Sheldon, my son Evan in the orange shirt, Mark Milleret, and Melinda's in the wheelchair. She didn't get out. Anyway, a bunch of friends. We were on that piece, and we got the story about this work came out in a press release from the Scheinbaum government. So I think we're getting close to being able to go down there. This is my crazy crew. At 75 years of age, I have never had more fun in my life than hanging out with these incredibly bright young folks that seem to still like to hang out with me. I buy them wine at night. Kyra, Rosalie, next is with the hat on, or the cowboy hat. She's my art director. She just married her wife and lives in Kansas City. Brandy is a Prairie girl, has a degree in ranch and land management, lives in Newton, Kansas. My son Evan, who's a musician, I just talked to Bob a little while ago, his teacher when he was in junior high, or really young. And Evan has always been kind of a Zen guy. I taught him everything I could until he was 15, and now he teaches me. Also, I don't think Kay showed up either. Boy. Anyway, Kay Traver lives here with her sister Lisa and Johanna. I got to go to Peru, so I'm not a religious guy. I have a respect for religion, but I walked away from a pretty young age. Like all of we lefties say, I'm a spiritualist. But I found out when Pope Leo was inaugurated, that's not what you call it, when he rose to become the Pope, there was an article that he could transplant our president as the most important American, and I applauded that idea to the point that I started talking to Kay and folks, and I said, I want to do a portrait of Pope Leo in Chiclayo, which is where he spent 20-some years of his life before he was, before he rose to the top. And that's Father Cesar, Kay Traver, and then the government officials there in Chiclayo, a town of 700,000. I'm scheduled to go down there in the spring and start maybe a portrait of Pope Leo on the property there as a permanent image in the city. There he is. That's Hans Traver. I showed up on his 95th birthday and brought him a bottle of Elijah Craig. They said, well, he hasn't had a drink in a year or two because of health reasons. And he said, get that bottle open. I'm going to toast Stan. So Mirta Guevara is his companion of 30-some years, amazing woman. Essentially, I'm traveling around the world meeting all the coolest people ever and getting to toast them at sunset in beautiful locations around the world, and I'm the luckiest guy on the planet. That's my in with the plow. I always like that plow. So I'm going to show one video here, but you can turn the lights up maybe a little bit. See if I can find this. How do I get off of that and off of, I'm just going to get that.
So if you minimize,
Yeah.
there's like the green or the yellow will minimize it.
You are not connected to the internet.
Let me fix that real quick.
Isn't it nice to have IT guys that know what the heck they're doing?
Library Wi-Fi, no password, guys. Pretty good place to come use.
Oh. So it still, is it doing
Also,
it?
now if you just do a refresh on the page, there we go.
Yeah. Right now, there's a lot of dissension with everything that's going on in the border and a lot of accusation. And I think we should extend a hand of gratitude.
That's something that not just honors us, but that really talks for the friendship and the family ties that we have in North America.
We are stronger as a continent, as allies, than we are punching each other in the nose. Sole is going to put the final stone in the eye.
And by doing this is sending a message that these people that were here before us are important.
That's it, folks. Questions, please. Somebody's got to say something. Yes, sir.
I got a question. For those of us who can't travel all these places and see all these things, your last book, I think, which I had crop art, was from '94. When are you going to do a book?
That's a good question. Would you like to be my agent? You know, I don't really know. I had a pretty good relationship with Abrams when we did that first book, and I've done probably, you know, that represented about 20% of the works that I've done. So I've got tons of work out there now, but I've approached a few folks, but you know, I always think that they're going to come to me. You know, somebody's going to say, "Hey, we want to do a book on your work," but I guess you have to pursue. I'm not very good at pursuing, but anybody has any ideas about it? No, you know, you can self-publish these days. People are doing, you know, my buddy, somebody in town, I'm trying to think. But, you know, there's a lot of avenues, yeah. Yes, sir, back in the back?
It's probably more of just a comment. I just wanted to share that my first exposure to your work of a relatively unlikely place was the Yellow Pages. And for years and years, you know, that book would sit on, you know, right by our phone that was connected to the wall. And I think that's such a neat way to get exposure and to just ultimately have your work out there in places that I never would have been exposed to it, living out there in Dodge City, Kansas for that while.
Yeah, I think I had an image in the Yellow Pages at one point.
It was the cover of the book.
Oh, it's the cover of the book. Look at that. See, I'm published. Yellow Pages. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about your sculptures, the two concentric circles.
Uh-huh.
Can you speak a little bit about the process? I'm curious because thinking about Stonehenge and Easter Island, what did it take to put those in place, you know, in comparison to?
Yeah, the one stone was, the big stone was, you know, I had to find it first because I thought this thing's, if we're gonna waste our time and Bill's money to create this thing, it needs to be massive or go home. And the really weird thing was I was building a monument to the Prairie by tearing the hell up out of the Prairie to put this thing in, and that didn't escape me, the irony of that. And so we found a guy with a big truck and a giant earth mover, and it was so remote, this location. Bill wanted it to be up by the highway, and I said, nah, let's make people work to get to it. And right now, nobody even knows where it's at. And I mean, they do, but the general public doesn't. There's no signs, and I kind of like that because people are gonna discover it, you know, probably 10 years after I'm dead, and eventually it's gonna be a fun place to go, hopefully. But to answer your question, this guy, good old boy, you know, I grew up with all the good old boys in southwest Kansas, but he was southeast Kansas, but he had this huge front-end loader and semi, so we loaded this 10-ton stone on our 8-ton, I can't remember, on the back of this semi, and just to get it to the field, he had to get down in the ravine in the creek bottom and pull the semi up just to bring that first piece in. So it was an arduous task. It was exciting. And Bill Curtis was there, you know, and and other folks kind of recording it and filming as we moved along. But I just spent, a couple of months digging holes, putting whatever foundational material we put in there. I can't remember. I don't think it was cement. But then we would put about a third of the stone into the ground, and the 2/3 would stand up. And then we just created it slowly as we went. One of the stones has fallen down, and I'm supposed to go down and fix that. But Bill's older than I am, and we're both trying to figure out the time to get down and spin. Yeah, if you ever get a chance to get down there, I think you can. I think there's a way to get to it if somebody is determined, and certainly if I can help. We ought to have another showdown down there. I ought to go back down and gather folks. I should ask Bill that. That's a great idea. The Osage, it was an homage to the Osage Indians, and many different tribes, of course, move in the Cherokee Strip, and I'm friends with Wes Studi with the Cherokee. I've got friends with the Comanche, Devin Mahisua, and that's his wife, Joshua Mahisua, with the Comanche. She's Choctaw. A lot of, I'm pretty connected in Indian world, I feel. And so doing something back down there, it just makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not alone in wondering when I look at your sculptures, how does he do that? So I assume GPS is involved. Tell us a little more about how you go out to a multi-acre plot and say, okay, now I'll do the eyebrow.
Yeah, that's a good question. Did you guys hear that? Yeah. So, the funny thing is, I'm 75. We didn't have GPS back then. I mean, the first image I did, Satanta, 160 acres, did we really lose 17 points? I'm sorry. Just like, KU lost? What? It's weird. Anyway, sorry. I'm that way. But it was a simple grid. I mean, Michelangelo did the Sistine Chapel by drawing out the design he wanted and went, okay, 1 inch square will be, 2 feet on the wall. And he went up and laid a grid out and started laying it out, So it's the same grid that a junior high student here would do. It's a pretty simple stuff, really. And mathematically, it seems complex because it's so large, but it's not really that complex. And I was never really that good at math. But I've been in math magazines because of volume and trajectory and all of these different things that tie into creating something on a large scale like that, and then being able to read it, and foreshortening, and there's just so much there. And pursuing art, just like Kevin Wilmot pursuing film, or Philip Gao pursuing his science, you are excited about something because it's a key to your world and your universe, and so you get up every day going, I want to know more, I want to know more. That's, to me, the key to life. My son Evan is a musician, and he's very inspired and determined to be better with his music every day. And that's all we can ask of people, I think, is just, find something that trips your trigger, man, and get out there and get after it. And, you get knocked down a lot. But I've written a book, by the way. Hey, I've written a book. I've got 50 pages that I started writing 6 years ago. And so anybody want to publish? And actually, I am talking with people about that. But I don't know what to focus on because I've done stuff in so many different scattered categories. It's like it'd probably be the young women, the indigenous women portraits. I think that would be a track for retelling and, photos and everything. But, I'm 75 and all my good stuff's yet to come. Thank you, Grassland Heritage. You guys are awesome. And library, thank you very much. Jake, thanks, brother. Sandy, thank you. One more question.
My friends and I went to Osawatomie to see your John Brown, but he was grown over. So,
Yeah.
I think you meant, did you say that some of these are permanent? And if so, does someone maintain them? Did you say that about the ones that
Yeah,
I can say that kind of, and it's been used
that piece will be there for a long time. You know, and I did an interview, a podcast with my buddy a couple of weeks ago, and I prefer a mountain untouched than one that's carved into the shape of a portrait. So, you know, we don't want to cover the earth with art, but there are places that it's appropriate, I think, and you know, like capping a landfill, or you know, Smithson did that piece way the hell out there on an ancient seabed in the middle of the desert. You know, there are places that it's appropriate, but the Amelia Earhart piece, I was excited to find out when I created that permanently. One day we had time off, and I slipped under the fence into the cemetery right next door and found her family buried there. And I just thought, hey, maybe, you know, that's kind of cool that I created something for Amelia Earhart next to her people. So, and that's a permanent piece, but they have to be maintained. And so, you know, be careful. For me, you know, it's like the piece on the levee here should be taken off the levee or made permanent. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other, but people go, what is it? I go, well, it's art, you know. But it's not, you know, and it floods, and so it was never supposed to be permanent. But we could do it permanent if we wanted to, so. Yes, Sandy?
A couple of things. One, Dan read to me an excerpt from the book that isn't finished the other day, and it was such an incredible insight into the human experience, and I said, I want the book. He said, it's not published. So when it is published, I highly recommend it. And,
Thank you.
Secondly, you mentioned you want to do sculptures next, and I'm curious more about that, and also the mural at the Kansas Historical Society. Would you tell us a little bit?
Oh, sorry, yeah. The Historical Society put the painting, I just spent 6 months painting 100 or 85 feet by 12 foot tall mural with the Kansas History Museum, Sarah Bell and Patrick, the director. Anyway, it was really fun. It's the 60s in Kansas, so if you go over there, just, you know, spend a couple of hours just looking around the museum, and then 10 minutes looking at my mural. But they jumped at the idea that I might recreate the history of Kansas in the 60s, late 60s and 70s, which is when, you know, I was the long-haired puka shell wearing cowboy. But I got to put my buddy Stan Sheldon in, and because he was playing with the great blues player out of Wichita, Hammond organ, help me guys, Mike Finnegan, thank you, and you know, Kevin Wilmot and Nancy Cassabaum and Wes Jackson holding up his plant that he's sustainable agriculture plant, Dodge City. You know, it's really a daunting task to go, okay, well, you're gonna, you know, how much of Kansas can you put in, you know, and you could go 1,000 different ways, and they really just kind of let me do what I wanted to do, which kind of surprised me. I was like, you gonna let me do this? Yeah, okay. So no, and that's a good question, is that when I got close to the end, it's all paid for. They don't owe me anything else. And I said, can I keep painting on this just when I get a whim? They said, sure. So I think I have a talk over there in a couple of months, and I invite all of you to come. It's really an incredible space. I'm amazed that not that many people. What's that?
I said it's as long as this wall.
Yeah, it's longer probably. Yeah. I mean, it's big. And I painted like 10 paintings in the middle. I've got some of my little paintings back there if anybody's interested in looking at those. I've painted more in the last 2 years than I've painted in the last 20 years. So I think at 75, I'm kind of into my denouement. You know, this is the last chapter, and I feel better than I felt in a long time. Not about everything, like the political chaos that's afoot, but my family's good. My son Evan's prospering, you know, mentally, healthily. He's shocked by what's going on in the world today, and he's an empath. My ex-wife Janice was an empath. we all have empathy if we're healthy, but some people have it to a degree that it's almost, it takes them down. And both Janice and Evan have that. And I have just enough that I can get up, when you have a really bad day or something really bad happens, you go, that's life. If it's good 51% of the time, get your butt out of bed and go do. And it's harder for some people. And my son Evan senses that. But I'm learning from Evan. He's way more of a balanced guy. Bob.
With all this painting you're doing, is it possible that this new activity of yours is going to lead you into some more crop art, cropped up, so to speak, in your paintings?
Well, as Sandy was referencing that a bit, the two things that I want to do, if I don't do one of them, I'll be really disappointed, is I came up with a design 25 years ago of a sculpture, a building, 19 stories tall. I don't know why 19, I just like the sound of it. But 19 stories tall, and when I drew, it was the first time, I've drawn horses all my life, and the first time I drew this, it was a building. It wasn't a horse that didn't look like a building. I just did a building in it. I think I've got it in here. And it would be a tribute to man's relationship with the horse historically. Men have been, and women involved with animal husbandry and horses forever. But the relationship with the horse, my family raised thoroughbreds and raced thoroughbreds, and I'm just joining the Kansas Thoroughbred Association tomorrow. But I have this design that you would have elevators up the four legs into this massive piece. And then there would be a museum to the world horse's history, which is 4 Arabian stallions are taken to Britain years and years ago and bred with English mares that created the thoroughbred. The thoroughbred comes to the United States, is reconstructed back down to an animal that can handle rough terrain and cattle, shorter legs, stockier, and that's the quarter horse. So I grew up like the fish in water. You don't know it because you're in the middle of it, but around horses and horsemen and horsemanship. I was never very good on riding a horse. My brothers were great, 3 of them. And so that's one of the crazy ideas. The other is the Fibonacci sequence, which would be a giant piece that I've had on my drawing board for 40 years, 30 years. Just a Fibonacci sequence, do you guys know it? So it's a math, it's nature's math. It's a pattern that happens naturally, a mathematical equation in nature, a hurricane, the universe, sunflower, all of this pattern is perfect. And so I wanted to create a giant image on 20 acres with the stones like the other piece down south, and then create one here and then one in China, and then have China math students come to the United States to help build the center, and have U.S. people go to China and build one there. And of course, those concentric lines that splay out from however you set it up will eventually meet someplace on the planet. So if it goes past your grandma's house 20 miles south of Tulsa, she can say, we've got the Fibonacci sequence right out there. It's a tree row, and it's really straight because it's such a big, you could do it, and then you could, that's, sorry, I can't help it. It's the kind of stuff and I don't even smoke marijuana. Thank you guys for everything. I appreciate it.
Marie McMillan. I'm from Topeka. I live within a mile of Topeka. After hours. That's where we were the other night. We heard Wallace that owns the hire. You know, the Hireman's company is, you're here a lot of times. Yes. Yes. They're made in Mexico. They can't get people in the United States to make streets. You get hold of him, he has his warehouse is in Gardner, Kansas. Fire. He has, his company here in the fire is doing a collection for they have about all the museum at
You know, I've talked to people, and K-State and KU over the years. You know, that's not a bad idea. I did a piece with on the rooftop there, you know, what do you call it, the beach museum. And, Karen's on the beach. I almost put that slide in. What's your name?
Steve Mogg. M-O-G-G, half man, half dog.
M-O-G-G.
Yeah, you don't run across too many of those.
Let's try this. How long did I talk? I don't even know.
I already shut your mic.